Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Bex here today to share my 2022 book unhaul. It's not a huge stack of books, there's 13 of them, but enough that I really wanted to make a video and say a final goodbye before I give them away to friends, donate them, stick some in the little free library down the street. However it happens, they're leaving my collection and I'm feeling really good about it. Always a nice cleansing feeling to get rid of books. So let me share what I'm getting rid of with you. I've got two stacks of books here. The first group is all books that I have read, and the second group is all books that I haven't. So I'm going to start with the ones I have read. These are the first three books in the Fallen Kingdoms series by Morgan Rhodes. So we have Fallen Kingdoms, Rebel Spring, and Gathering Darkness. These were actually sent to me by the publisher probably back in 2015. I think they were promoting the fourth book coming out, and I thought they'd be fun to read. I didn't end up reading them until a little bit later, but I actually really enjoyed Fallen Kingdoms. Like, this was a 4-star read for me, and as a YA fantasy, that was not something I was expecting to happen. However, when I read the other two, I definitely didn't like them as much, and I didn't feel like the story was gonna get any better. So I stopped at 3, and at this point, I don't think I'm ever going to read them again. It's the first 3 books in a series, so it's a great find for somebody that's looking for a young adult fantasy. So yeah, they're going to go to a new home. Next, I'm getting rid of Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier, and I know many of you love this book. Unfortunately, I just did not have the same great time that so many other people had. This was a 3-star read for me. If I had a nicer edition of this book, I would keep it. Space is not the issue. It's the cover. This looks like it was designed by a high schooler in the mid-2000s. This edition is so ugly, and because I didn't really care for the book, with an ugly edition, it's gone. I'm also going to pass along This Is Really Happening, True Stories by Erin Chack. This was another book that I received from the publisher, and it's the author recounting different stories in their life, also a lot about her getting cancer at a very young age. And when I read it, it was fine. I think I gave it 3 stars, but it's just not a book that I'm ever going to read again, and I do really feel like it's geared towards a younger audience. Like, this would be a great book for someone who's in their teens. This is more a book for that sort of reader, and I am past that at this point. I'm not going to pick this one up again, and it's in great shape, so hopefully somebody will really enjoy this book. The last book that I'm getting rid of that's from the already read pile is 1776 by David McCullough. Not that I hated this book, it was alright. I ended up mostly listening to it on audiobook though, because my edition of the book, I got it secondhand, and the first chunk of it, it was completely separating from the binding. You can kind of see it there. So reading it was a bit of a pain because it kept just trying to flop out and separate from the rest of this book. I don't know if I can really even salvage it at this point. I mean, it's alright. Maybe I could donate it and someone else would be okay with it kind of being like that, but just the shape it's in and the fact that I didn't love the book, I don't think it's worth keeping. On to the books that I have not read and will not be reading. The first one is Woman Number 17 by Eden Lepucki. This is actually an ARC. This came out a long time ago. This was just passed on to me. My boyfriend's mom is a high school librarian, and occasionally she'll get ARCs for different things, and so she passed this one on to me. And every time I thought I might read it, I would pick it up, flip through it, go on Goodreads, and it's a thriller, or some sort of psychological thriller, I think, but it didn't seem like a lot of people were that thrilled by it. The reviews were very middling, and thrillers, they're a dime a dozen these days. I've already got other ones on my TBR shelf that I'm more interested in reading, so because I didn't pay anything for this, I don't think it's worth holding on to. Because it's an ARC, this is going to go either to a friend or a little free library, but either way, hopefully someone else will give it a chance. The rest of these books are all books that I did try chapters with, so I read the first chapter or so of the book to see if it was something that I was still interested in reading. It's part of a video series that I occasionally do on this channel. I'll link my most recent one here if you want to go check it out. But the first book that I'm getting rid of that I know I don't want to read is The Happiness Project by Gretchen Rubin. This is a self-help book, and although it is structured really well, it's just not something that I want to spend time reading about. This was a tester book. Basically, a colleague of mine was getting rid of a bunch of books, and I picked this one out because I don't usually gravitate towards self-help, but I figured this would be the one that I might want to try. And yeah, no, not for me. Another one that I tried and did not agree with was Breakfast of Champions by Kurt Vonnegut. I wanted to give a Vonnegut book a try because so many people rave about him. He's a very famous author, and this was too weird for me. Maybe my brain capacity just can't take in something like this, but it was just a little too wacky for me. I thought it was gonna be okay, and then I kept going, like I kept reading a bit farther into it, and it just kind of confirmed what I was already thinking, was that, yeah, nope, too weird for me. The next one I'm getting rid of is I'm a Stranger Here Myself, Notes on Returning to America After 20 Years Away by Bill Bryson. I have a lot of Bill Bryson books on my shelf. I read a lot of them, but this one didn't really appeal to me anymore because it's him writing articles for an English newspaper about stuff in America. I believe that was the gist of it. And this was written, or at least those articles were written in the 90s. And I read a couple of them and they just read very much of that time. And I didn't want to just continually read those kinds of things while reading this book. I just wasn't in the mood for that. So this one is going. The last 3 books in this unhaul are all ones that I paid full price for, and I really regret doing that now because I'm never gonna read them. I tried to and it didn't work out. The first one is A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon Janes. This won the Man Booker Prize a number of years ago, and I was intrigued because at one point in my life I wanted to read the Man Booker Prize winners, and then I realized that a lot of those books I really just don't jive with, and case in point right here. For me, the synopsis of this book makes it sound more interesting than it actually is. The reading experience is just too big brain energy for me, and it's such a big book that I was not going to spend the time to try and get through it and really understand what I'm reading. And you can also tell that it's been on my bookshelf for a really long time because it got a bit sun damaged, so sorry, but hopefully somebody will still want to read it. I'm also saying goodbye to The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. This is a book that I thought was a nonfiction book. Turns out it's actually fiction. It's based on a lot of true things, and it actually affected legislation, which is why I thought it was completely nonfiction. However, when I did the try a chapter, I was reading an entire first chapter that was about a wedding between the main character and his new bride, and that's just not really why I wanted to read this book. I wanted the nitty-gritty of the slaughterhouses and all that gross stuff that was happening, and that is in here, but I don't want to spend the time to read the other stuff just to get the more non-fiction-y bits of it. Of this stack, this is the book that I've owned the longest, so it makes me a bit sad that it just never worked out, but at least it's getting off my shelves now. The last book that I'm getting rid of is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I really wanted to like this book. Once again, it's a Man Booker Prize winner, and I thought I was gonna like it. There was talk of Gold Rush, New Zealand. There was some sort of zodiac astrological stuff going on in here that I thought was gonna be much more exciting to the plot. I don't think it is based on the reviews that I was reading, and this is another gigantic book, and it's also a lot of big brain energy that I just don't have the time and the willpower to put into it. The other thing that really sealed the deal for this one is that the TV show was released semi-recently, so a lot of people were picking up this book to give it a go, and every review that I've seen has been very meh. So that's definitely not going to sell such a big book to me when I was already feeling like I wasn't going to like it, because I had tried reading this book in like 2016 and I wasn't feeling it. Tried it again for the last hurrah and no, still didn't work out. So this is the last of the bunch that is definitely leaving my collection. Those are all of the books that are coming off of my shelves and hopefully going into the hands of other people who will really want to read them. If you've read any of these and have thoughts on them, feel free to share those in the comments below. As always, all of our links are in the down bar. You can go check those out if you feel so inclined. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you later.